Learning 3D has never been easier. We have Google, Schmoogle, ChatGPT, YouTube, courses, Blender Bros, all these amazing resources. And for some reason, people struggle with learning. So what the hell is going on, right? It's not the tools. Blender is not the problem. AI is not the problem. The resources are not the problem. The problem is how people are learning. The skill of learning has disappeared. Schools are not helpful, parents are not helpful, and the entire system is collapsing. So in this video, I want to talk about it, and I want to give you some interesting tips on how you can fix that and improve your learning skills. Now I got some notes on the screen. We're gonna go through all these points one by one. There's a lot to cover, so I just have it drafted, so I'm not gonna forget anything. So number one is gonna be people confuse tools for skills. Two different things. You can know all the tools, all the menus in Blender. It's like knowing the words in encyclopedia. Only because you know words in encyclopedia doesn't mean you can speak, or you can make a sentence or create a sentence that makes sense, or write a book, right? It's a knowledge of tools, which are words, but you don't have the skill to actually put these words on paper in a way to make it engaging. Do you see what I mean? So now knowing the tools in Blender, for example, array, modifiers, whatever, it's a one thing, but knowing how to use them in order to create appealing models, it's a whole fucking different story, right? So if you don't have the foundations, you don't know the principles of design, you don't know how to create balanced blockouts, and you don't know how to evolve your own ideas from references without copying them like a monkey, then you're not an artist. You're just a tool. You're an extension of a tool. You're just a machine pressing buttons. Do you see what I mean? This is why, for example, I don't think that people who trace models or pictures in Blender with verts and recreate whatever they see, exactly the copy of whatever they see on the screen, they're artists. They're just people who know where the tools are and how to use them. That's it, okay? If you're a true artist, you're going to be able to look at references, be inspired by these references, and create something very engaging and original from these references, or maybe even from your life experience. Okay, that's how it works. So you put the soul into it, you put the life knowledge into it, you put your experiences, your emotions into it, then you draw inspiration from visual examples from work of other people, and you create something original out of this. You get inspired and then you create. Okay, and you can develop this skill, but you need to be patient, you need to be consistent, and you need to work towards that goal. It will not happen in a day. One course will not teach you that. Two courses will not teach you that. In fact, if you don't put time into it, you will not be able to learn it at all, right? So you can watch as many courses as you want. Of course, they're going to help you a lot by introducing new workflows, by teaching you new skills and teaching you new ways of looking at things. But you need to sit the fuck down and do the work. Otherwise, you're going to be a tool user, right? Not someone who has a skill and therefore uses tools to implement the skill or sell the skill in the shape of a 3D model. Make sense? Number two, tutorial addiction. This one is huge. People get into these loops of, watching tutorials, copying tutorials, finish a model, feeling good about it, getting quick dopamine hit, repeating. And the shorter the course is, the shorter the video they watch is, and the quicker the results are, the better. And instead of, reflecting on it and, let's say, going through a tutorial, learning how something was done, and then sitting down and thinking, well, how can I make it my own? You will never grow. It's like just, treading water, right? You're just wasting your time. You think you're learning, but it's a procrastination through learning in quote marks. Do you know what I mean? So it will really not make you grow at all. So when you're watching tutorials, you need to do it consciously, and you need to, watch them in a way that will build your new skills and maybe, reinforce some knowledge you already have and expand on it. but at the same time, you need to look forward to new challenges, and these challenges are only achievable and doable when you're gonna do it on your own. So when you work on a tutorial, this is, for example, why I see a lot of people making the mistake when they finish a tutorial and they're posting exactly the same image as, for example, I created in in the rendering section. But few people, what they do is they change things. So I can see that they're starting to imbue that image or that render or even the model with their own personality, and that's what I want to see, because that tells me that this person wants to break out of this cage of a tutorial and just enter the open seas of their own imagination, if that makes any sense. Okay, so they bring that or take that knowledge from a tutorial and they apply it to their own personality. They kind of sort of reinforce what they feel, what they know, what they want to do with new skills or new knowledge, and they build upon it. That's what I want to see, because that's true learning, right? That's how you're gonna grow. And I see people, for example, going through courses and creating something completely new, or models that are changed in a way, or different renders or different scenarios, or create composites and just have fun with it. That is really what I want to see. Because going through a tutorial, it's fine. Learning your tools, it's fine. And maybe you're a beginner, you don't have the confidence to do it yet. Because you see, the real learning happens when you start to try solving problems. And the problem's gonna appear usually when you do something on your own. There's no one holding your hand. You're not following, the dots. Like, these paintings when you have numbers and you just connect the dots and you have a painting. It's like, oh, I did that. No, you fucking connected the dots. That's not really painting. That's just bullshit, right? What you want to do is you want to try building the dots. You just try to build a new image, right? That's the real skill building, exercise. So you need to experiment, you need to run into problems, you need to run into frustrations, you need to run into challenges, because friction builds character, friction builds skills. That's the only way to fucking grow. If you go to gym and you lift the same shit every day, you will not grow. You need to stimulate the muscle, you need to break the muscle tissue, right? The same thing with brain. You need to challenge your brain, you need to make it work harder. And the pain and the frustration and the challenges is actually very, very good for you, right? Another problem is that people lack initiative, okay? So they're just too lazy to research stuff on their own. Guys, we have comments on our ads for the Jumpstart 2.0 course, which kind of scared the living shit out of me. People asking shit like, for example, what is hard surface? I mean, if you're that fucking retarded and you think that typing this on under a Facebook ad, waiting for a reply is faster and better for you than typing this in Google and actually doing some quick research on your own and learning something new, then you're fucking gone. You have it's NGMI, not gonna make it, right? I don't even fucking talk to these people. I just hide the comment and block them, do you know what I mean? Because that's a dead weight. I can't work with these people. That's not a human for me, that's a waste of fucking space, okay? And that's very common to this new generation. We have people asking questions like, does Blender come with your course? Like, dude, like what? What the fuck are you talking about? What is wrong with you? I mean, just do a basic research. If I'm trying to learn something new, I'm gonna run a basic research on it, because I wanna know what the hell it involves. What am I looking at? It's a natural instinct for me. So if someone is that lazy, they will not only not go through a tutorial, but then they're going to blame the tutorial for them not gaining the skill. Do you see what I mean? That's the mentality. And if you have this mentality, no one's going to be able to help you, right? You just, that's it. You're gone. That's it. You're done. So don't be surprised you can't get a job, because with this attitude, you will never fucking get one. You can't build character or anything really in life with this mentality, okay? So that's number 2. So summarizing this, right? don't get addicted to tutorials, as in like, you know, don't treat them as dopamine hits or like, you know, I don't know, some kind of milestones. Oh, I finished this, I should get a medal. No, get a tutorial when you genuinely want to learn something. So for example, if someone wants to learn the basics of Blender, we're going to offer them the Hard Surface Accelerator because it's an in-depth course which will teach you not just the tools and the menus and everything, but also the workflow, also principles of design. This is why people like this course so much. That's why we have over 6,000 people who joined the course and loved it. If you want to go further, we're going to offer you the ultimate guide to Hardops and Boxcutter 2.0 because it opens the gates to the add-on workflow, which is much more efficient. Then if you want to go deeper, you can grab, for example, Sub-D course, which is going to teach you a completely new workflow. But it's building on existing skills. It's climbing higher, you know, up the ladder. That's a, you know, there's a sort of like a progression of skill, right? And if that's how you think, that makes sense to grab a tutorial or a course and learn from that because you will learn the right way. But if you get tutorials or buy courses just to feel good about yourself because you've, you know, completed a model, then, you know, all you do is connecting the dots on the image, you know, and pretending you're doing something, all right? Now, this leads me to point number 3, which is quick win mentality. And many beginners think that, you know, quick tutorials and quick results is what they should be aiming at, and they run quick projects, you know, Insta portfolio drops, and they rush things. And rushing things is a very, very bad idea, especially when you want to learn the basics, the foundations. Give you an example. When you're modeling something in 3D, you start with a blockout. And blockout is the most important stage of modeling. You should be putting about 80% of your effort into blockout because it will define the balance and the, you know, the final result of your model. The better the blockout, the easier is going to place details on that model. They will place themselves, especially if you know principles of design. See how it's all connected? It's all connected. And if you rush through this because you want to finish the model, because you want to share it with the world, it's gonna be shit. Okay? Good things take time. So invest time to achieve better results. And when you get better in the process of making these models, the time will drop naturally because you're gonna be able to finish them quicker because you will know how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, you're gonna be repeating the same thing. You're gonna be creating garbage. Just like AI, because AI just creates mostly garbage, okay? So, you know, patience and repetition is the key. So you want to, you know, grab a proper course with a proper workflow, go through it, and repeat steps in that course as many times as you need to until you fucking understand it. Granted, it needs to be a good course. But if it is, don't skip if you don't understand something. Ask questions, research, don't be lazy. Because once you build these foundations, you do it only once and you're gonna remember them forever, do you see what I mean? And based on these foundations, you can build a proper structure that will allow you to create shit quicker, more effectively, and with better results. That's just a pure logic, right? So quick win mentality is a quick lose mentality, all right? Another thing is really important. Don't be proud of finishing something. Be proud of finding a new challenge you overcame. If you think that way, instead of looking for the dopamine hit after you finish a project, you enjoy the process. And the more you enjoy the process, the more in-depth knowledge you're going to gain from this experience, because you're going to invest time and effort into something new, something challenging, something you're scared, you know, maybe not scared of, but something you're unsure of, right? But when you solve that problem, that's a really proper dopamine hit, right? Because shit, you know, I actually solved that, right? Since we started Blender Bros, there are many moments like this. You know, we were creating game asset course. We knew fuck all about game assets, so we had to learn this from scratch. Sub-D course, you know, I was studying for quite a bit before I actually, you know, started recording the course. So it was a lot of practice, a lot of studies, a lot of research, and you know, it took time. The same thing, for example, for the rigging part for the last course, you know, I did proper research, proper studying. So every time I learn new skills, and once I master them, I sell them, right? I package them and I sell them so you can learn them too. But that's how it should be. When we create YouTube videos, we do the same thing. We learn new things. No one is born with the knowledge of texturing Substance Painter. People fucking learn this shit. How do they learn it? By running into challenges, by running into obstacles, by solving these problems, not running away from them. That's how they grow. And it's a gradual process, right? And it's gonna take time. You will have to be persistent and consistent, and then you're gonna win. Okay? Point number 4 is lack of deep focus. You know, we're distracted by everything. Twitter, Schmitter, YouTube, ding-dongs from a fucking message from friends, all this bullshit, right? You need to turn the distractions off, either physically or mentally, right? Physically is better. Turn the fucking phone off when you're learning. Turn it off, right? Close the browser, okay? Close the YouTube. Close email client. Tell your family to fuck off and leave you alone because you're learning. Do you see what I mean? You need to have a space, not just physically, but mentally, to focus. If you cannot focus, you're going to be wasting time because it's going to take you way longer to learn something, right? If you're not focused. So you need to have, you know, not just the environment, but you need to have this ability or build the ability to focus. It's an ability. I was watching an interesting video about Gen Alpha, you know, the new kids, the iPad kids. They cannot focus in a classroom for more than few seconds. This is actually fucking disaster. We are, you know, this new generation is lost because all they can do is watch TikTok and, you know, Cocomelon videos. Do you know what I mean? And they cannot focus at all. They're very sort of antsy and maybe not angry, but very impatient. And they have no consistency, and they need constant, you know, sort of a influx of stimulants, right? Non-stop. The young kids cannot even be quiet. They just can't be quiet. They cannot sit calmly down on their asses and be quiet. This is a complete opposite to what I remember when I was in the kindergarten and the grammar school, you know. So this is a problem, but it's not just Gen Alpha, it's actually Gen Z and other people, that, you know, older people, you know, even millennials, etc. People cannot focus, have difficulty with focusing because of all these distractions, because of all these, you know, social media, short videos, TikTok bullshit and all that stuff, right? So you need to understand that acquiring complex skills, like for example, skill of creating a really good 3D art, takes time and deep focus. And you need to focus in order to build these skills. You need to do it consistently, otherwise you will fail. So you need to learn how to, you know, remove these addictions, because these are addictions. It's an addiction to phone, addiction to messages, addiction to replying, addiction to needing to know what the fuck is going on with your friends every single second. Back when I was growing up, all we had is a fucking land phone, okay? Land phone. So if someone wasn't home, you couldn't contact them at all. Right? Think about it for a second. It was a very different boredom. Listen to this carefully, yeah? Boredom is where the best ideas are being born. That's why you have good ideas in a bath. That's why you have good ideas when you take a shit. That's why you have good ideas when you walk. Especially when you don't have a phone in your ears, right? Because you are bored. You're idle. Your brain is idle, and that's where the best ideas come in. This is why you need to turn off all the distractions and focus, right? It's really important. Point number 5, skipping fundamentals. This is huge, okay? People want to, you know, run after the shiny thing. You know, they see a Mac, oh shit, I want to make a Mac. But they don't even know how to move a cube. So they get the complicated course, and they get confused, they get, you know, frustrated, and they drop it and say, oh, fucking Blender sucks. I see so many comments, Blender UI is complicated. The fuck are you talking about? Blender UI is fucking simple if you know what you know what you want to do. If you want to do everything, yeah, it's complicated. I don't know 95% about Blender. I don't give a shit, because it's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is hard surface modeling. I'm focused. Do you see what I mean? I don't give a fuck about sculpting. I don't give a fuck about, metaballs, whatever the fuck it's called. I don't care. Because that's not what I'm fucking doing. I'm doing hard surface fucking modeling. That's it. Period. End of story. So if you can focus, then you're gonna acquire an immense deep knowledge on that one subject. And once you do, then you can spread into texturing, whatever the hell you want to do. But focus on one thing and master it. You know what I mean? So going back to fundamentals, people skip that and they just want to, run before they learn how to walk. And that's a problem because they run into challenges that are way too difficult for them to overcome. You see, challenges, like goals, should be incremental. So you set incremental goals or incremental challenges that will not kill you. They will not, bring you down and break you, but they will sort of inspire you because they're difficult but not impossible to overcome. That's the fucking key. But when you go into skip fundamentals, you go into the, it's like not knowing how to swim and someone pushes you off the fucking boat, and you're in the middle of the sea and you're fucking panicking, right? Of course you're gonna panic because that's not how how you should be learning how to swim. That's what a lot of, beginners are doing, and they just trying to bite too much and go too deep. Learn the fucking fundamentals, because without the fundamentals, you cannot progress deeper. Okay? When you start learning language, you're not starting learning from complex grammar structure. You start learning from mama, papa, do you know what I mean? Basic words, just like a toddler. That's the key. And going back to fundamentals, the same goes to blockouts. When you start learning how to model 3D, really focus on blockouts. Blockouts are the most important thing that you can learn when you're starting 3D, because blockout is the essence of everything. It's a foundational block of everything, right? If your blockout is well designed and well balanced and well proportioned, you will be able to place details on it without any problem. Because if you know principles of design or you're aware of them, you can figure it out, very easily. The detail will place itself, right? So you cannot fix, a broken foundation, just like a building. If you build a building on a fucked up foundation, guess what? It's gonna collapse. But when the foundation is solid, you can build anything the hell you want. And that's the same thing in 3D. You cannot skip the fundamentals, all right? Point number 6 is gonna be add-ons and false expectations. Now, people come to Blender think, oh shit, I'm gonna get an add-on, it's gonna solve my problem. If you don't know what you're doing, it will not solve your problem. It's gonna make it worse. Because if you don't know the vanilla Blender tools and the basic principles of shading, of topology, of how to run basic operations, add-ons will not help you because A, when they break, you're fucked, and B, you just don't know how the basics work. Before I started using plugins in Photoshop to, for example, run, stuff like Pro Contrast in Nick Collection, right? I was spending hours on manual dodging and burning, on manual contrast building, layer by layer, to understand how it works, what's important, doing frequency separations by hand. Okay? So basically, you can use tools that gonna help you to get to the destination faster, but you need to master the basics, which is exactly why the Hard Surface Accelerator course, which we offer to beginners, is doing exactly that. It teaches you the basic tools in vanilla, the basic workflow, then on which you can build further, right? So the important, thing to take away here is that the add-ons gonna accelerate your knowledge or your basic skills, but they will not replace that knowledge, right? They will not provide kind of a band-aid for lack of knowledge of using specific tools or understanding basic principles in 3D modeling, okay? Number 7, fear of hard work. Many people give up very quickly when they just run into a problem. I have comments saying like, I'm working on Mac and I don't know the shortcut keys. And when we told him to fuck off to GPT and research it, he just gave up and refunded the course. What the fuck is this? I can't respect people like this, Because that's not someone who wants to learn. That's someone who is trying to find an excuse for not learning. Okay? You should be looking for difficult things, because difficult things gonna make you grow. It's like, since we started, I just my brain doesn't compute. Since we started Blender Bros, we constantly run into issues. I mean, every fucking single day for the past 6 years, right? Because that's what running your own business entails. You constantly fix problems. You know, there was an interesting book I was reading. I forgot the title. It was very good. And the guy said that when you're an entrepreneur, you love to embrace chaos. Entrepreneurs literally look for things that are broken because they want to fix them. If nothing is broken, they get bored and depressed. That's a mindset of someone who's going to be a good entrepreneur. So we fix things every day, literally on a daily fucking basis, right? Either it's Facebook ads or YouTube or algorithm on that, or some client or some course or this or that doesn't work, and it's just non-stop, okay? But we're not looking at this as, oh, there's a problem, what are we gonna do now? We just fix it. Because we're grateful to the opportunity that we don't have to, work 9 to 5, and we can do something that we truly love, which is teaching. And, I love 3D art. I love art in general. I've been doing this for 25 years. And I can't imagine myself doing anything else. In fact, when I was working in a Japanese company, I was fucking suffering, mentally and physically. I was genuinely fucking suffering. I wasn't happy, I wasn't a happy panda, okay? So I would do anything to continue, right? I'll just, there's no turning back for me, because that's what I want to do. And when you find something that you want to do, you're naturally going to work hard. And if you don't, that means you have a problem, okay? You're either immature, or maybe you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, or maybe you're lazy. But if either of this is true, then perhaps you should be doing something else. Maybe you're doing something against yourself, which is not good. Because if you're doing something you truly like, then there should be no fear of hard work. You should be excited that there is hard work, because hard work is going to make you better, right? And bring you, further closer to your dream, whatever it may be. And again, like I said, when you have a difficulty in life and you have some problem that you run into, and you're not going to escape from that problem, you're not trying to sweep it under the rug, but you're going to attack it head on, you're not only going to gain more respect for yourself, but you're also going to learn something very useful. That if there's a problem, I can fucking solve it. It gives you courage. It gives you it gives you scars. And these scars matter because they're going to make you a better artist, okay? Because challenges build character, and character builds better art. That's why, for example, one of the best, compositions in terms of classical music, or poetry, or books, or songs written, right, were written from pain, from hard experiences, from breakups. These are the best ones. Why? Because the emotions are so deep, and the challenge they overcame was so profound, right? That's what's gonna build you. So don't run away, and don't fear hard work. Hard work is good, okay? Number 8 is going to be unrealistic career expectations. A lot of people think that, they can learn 3D for 3 months and find a job in, I don't know, AA industry or something, okay? It's a pipe dream. It takes years. It takes years to not just learn the skills, learn the pipeline, learn, all the tools, etc., master the workflow, but also gain all the skills that you need in order to succeed. So if you think that you can do it quickly, it ain't going to happen, okay? If you look, for example, at careers of doctors or lawyers, I'm a lawyer, right? So I know you need to go through the college, and then you got practice, and then you got another exam, and then you start, your job actually as a junior. It takes a lot of fucking time. you know, it's not fucking easy. And I think doctors take even longer. I think it's 11 years, it's like of whatever. It's 5 years of university and 6 years of internship, right? Something like that. It's crazy. Then you have special, you know, you can specialize in something. It's non-stop learning, okay? Non-stop learning. So expecting fast results, right, leads to frustration and burnout. You will not be able to achieve what you want because you're gonna burn out before you're gonna even start. So my advice to you would be, instead of thinking about the end goal, obviously you need to have it in mind because you need to have a goal, right? But instead of counting, or maybe not counting, instead of, you know, desperately wanting to get to the end goal, just try to desperately invest as much time as possible into building the skills that are gonna get you there. Because if you do that, you're gonna get your goal automatically before you even realize. Because you're gonna be the one that's gonna be seeking. If you're gonna have a very good, strong portfolio on ArtStation, and it's gonna be really robust, and you know, the art directors who usually seek new talent, they're gonna see that, oh shit, this guy knows principles of design, knows how to design original stuff because I haven't seen it before, knows how to present their work, you know, then I'm gonna hire them. Look at the videos I posted, you know, some time ago with Michael Oberschneider, who was the designer for Star Citizen vessels. Look at his fucking portfolio, right? And he spent decades building it. It didn't happen in 2 days. Happened in decades. So, you know, it's nice to have dreams, but you need to understand dreams comes with costs. And the cost is usually time and a lot of effort, okay? So you need to have realistic expectations about your career. You need to assess your current skill level, right, in a non-delusional way, okay? Number 9, AI is not the problem. You know, a lot of people think that AI will kill the 3D industry or whatever. And if you really watch videos from people who are working for the industry, they will tell you that AI is nowhere near that. And probably, you know, I don't know if we're gonna be there at some point, but at the moment, forget about it. They're using AI obviously as tools, just like we use add-ons for Blender, but they use them alongside their own skills and judgment they developed through years of practice being an artist. And if you don't have this knowledge, that's the key point, right? If you don't have this knowledge, if you're not a good artist, if you don't know the principles of design, if you don't know how to make a good blogout, if you don't know how to take references and create something original, AI will not fucking help you. It's gonna actually make things worse because you're gonna use AI and rely completely on that AI, just like writing a prompt, you know, saying, make me a sci-fi gun to ChatGPT or, you know, Midjourney or whatever. And it's gonna make you a sci-fi gun, but if you don't know what you want, it's gonna be very generic. And even if you specify that prompt, because I tried it many times, it's shit. If you know the principles of design, if you know which design is good, if you have this knowledge, you will see that this is garbage. 99.9% of stuff produced by AI is absolute fucking shit. And if you don't know that, then you're just gonna be lost. It's really important to follow good artists. It's really important to build visual library with images that are really good. It's really important to take your time and invest in learning these things, so your judgment's gonna be your judgment and not something that AI is enforcing on you, okay? In addition, if you're gonna be using AI as a crutch and not just a tool that assists you with what you know what you want to do, so bringing you closer to your destination, but you know the path, you know where you're going, you know what you want to do, and you tell AI what you want like a boss, then it's gonna become the boss of you. And if that happens, and if you're lazy and you don't have all these, you know, attributes we talked about before, like willing to work hard, willing to solve problems, willing to embrace challenges, you're gonna get fucked. And I think AI is going to be and is a tremendous opportunity for artists right now instead of, you know, a problem, because I think it's going to speed up the segregation of really bad artists from the good ones. You see, a lot of junior positions now are not being filled because companies are not looking really for junior positions. So they have, art directors, but no one is being trained to become one. So you have the great opportunity to train yourself to become one. So when you're gonna be on a level where you can just, design a series of armors or weapons, whatever, even when you're using AI, then you're gonna be a very interesting asset that companies gonna be looking for, because they will need someone who's gonna be able to direct or sort of command the AI tools what they want to do, and have this knowledge to judge whether what AI delivered is good or not, whether we can work with this or not. Okay, so it's really important. Without this knowledge, you can't do that, so you're gonna be completely useless. So I think AI is gonna be speeding up the process of segregation and sort of creating a bigger rift, bigger gap between the skill levels, among artists. That's what I think is going to happen, because it encourages laziness. And the AI is going to be a tool that's going to, kill the artist in you if you don't have the consistency, the will to look for challenges, the will to work harder, and the will to, evolve as an artist and learn new skills. It's going to really amplify the weakness that you have. Because you're gonna be using it as a crutch, not as a tool. So you're gonna be using it without knowing what you're doing. It's like using a power drill to make a cake. Bad idea, Because you see the AI, what it does, right? AI just amplifies the existing skill. It's like a bionic arm. You need to have an arm that functions in order to amplify it with you know what I mean? Like in Cyberpunk 2077. It's not going to replace the understanding and knowledge, because if you don't have that knowledge, it's like steering a ship without being a captain, without having the knowledge of how to navigate. Even all these tools there and all the autopilots will not help you, because at some point you're gonna have to park the ship at the port. So you will need to know that, and if you don't know that, you're just gonna crash. You see what I mean? So AI is not the problem. I think the way we use AI is a problem. And if you're not, conscious of how you're using AI, it could do more harm than good, right? And the last one is gonna be the real learning formula, and this one is really huge. So our brain can focus on processing 4 pieces of information at once, and that's really important, because if you try to learn too many things at once, and you're going to be jumping from one thing to another because you're impatient, because you started one course, it was easy, and then you ran into problems, into frustrations and challenges, you ditched that and you started something else because it's easier, because it's new, and it's going to feel more, you're going to feel this dopamine hit again, then you will never learn something properly. Because when you learn, you need to not only be aware of the fact that brain has a limited capacity of juggling things, but in addition, it's the repetition and immersion that's going to amplify the learning speed and process. So when you want to learn faster and more effectively, you want to repeat and immerse yourself in it. That's why when you read the book, you're going to be repeating several, times similar expressions or words that author likes to use in different contexts. So it's going to be repetition, and you're going to learn that way and remember these words and know how to use them in context. Kids these days, for example, there's been, reports that not just Gen Alpha, not just Gen Z, people in fucking college can't read. And by can't read, I mean they cannot read, complex sentences or a paragraph and make sense of it. They can read the title of a YouTube video, but when the sentence is more complex, structure to it, they just get lost, because the brain cannot function on that level. Do you see what I mean? Because they're not used to it. It's a muscle that's not been trained. It's like asking someone who's been sedentary for a long time to go and run a marathon. They will fucking die, right? Because their muscles and the body, the heart is not used to it. Not to mention their, their mental state. They cannot endure that kind of effort. It needs to be built through repetition and immersion, right? And the last element here is going to be connection. So when you build skill A, let's say you're going to learn how to build a good blockout, okay? Once you do that, you can move on to learning how to place details and where to place them and what are the rules of placing details, because you're going to be building it in connection with the blockout. The blockout will actually tell you through the principles of design and your experience and other visual examples and the visual library in your head that you're going to be constantly building through doing things, how to do that better. So how to place better details, where to place them, how to do it to make it more appealing. And you're going to improve this gradually each time you create a new model. But you need to do this in connection with the skills you already acquired. So you work on one skill in separation to a degree where your brain is processing a limited amount of information, but you staying immersed and you're repeating that process to solidify it. Then on that foundation, you build next fucking skill that's connected to it. You see how it works? That's why it takes time to learn 3D. That's why it takes time to become a lawyer. That's why it takes time to learn a language. That's why it takes time to do fucking anything in life. And shortcuts will not get you there, right? So think about it, watch it again if you need to, but I think it's gonna be helpful. And that's it for the video. Like I said, if you're new to Blender and you wanna learn how to use Blender effectively, look into our course, the Hard Surface Accelerator. Links are in the video description. And if you want to learn, the add-on workflow on a different level, you want to push your skills further, then look into the Ultimate Guide to Hard-Ups and Box Cutter 2.0. All the links are in the video description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.